Today I'm going to discuss the Waltz in A minor by Chopin. Since it's the first one I teach, it's opus posthumous. It's the least complicated, in my opinion, of all the waltzes. So that's why I teach it as a beginning waltz. Now the right hand is a very beautiful melody, and it should be played not with a metronomic beat, because Chopin, being from the Romantic era, there was a very expressive, emotional content in the music. And the period of time, especially with Chopin, was the tempo rubato, which is where the beat bends a little bit. So the first thing to do, probably, is to learn this beautiful melody. It starts on an upbeat. Counting in ands would be a good idea to accommodate the eighth notes, and to do it very slowly, because in practicing in baby steps, you should really practice slowly when you're learning notes, fingering, rhythm, and phrasing. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3. That's a crescendo here. 1 and 2, 3. You come under this. 1 and 2 and 3. 1 and 2. Start soft. 1 and 2 and 3. Crescendo. 1 and 2. Under. 1 and 2 and 3. That's the basic idea. Now in that space of time, he had A minor at the beginning, and he also went into C major, which is the relative major. He does it here. So you should be aware of that. Now, just for that first section, which keeps coming back, and that's why it's important to learn it, the fundamental bass, which is the downbeat of each measure, is important to learn, because it has the foundation of the harmony. What comes after the fundamental bass are afterbeat chords, which of course fill in the harmony. First thing to do is then to go to the left hand. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1, 2 and 3 and 1 and 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 2 and 3 and 2 and resolve to the end. Now this space goes up by fourths, so that's kind of a nice symmetry, and then it skips around. But the student should know it's going between A minor on that first page and C major. It's good to know chords too. Now basically the afterbeat chords, and you can have the student do the afterbeat chords so that he sees the neighbor motion or the motion between the chords, because when you're jumping from the bass, fundamental bass, to the chords, it might seem like a kind of challenging distance. So to make the distance seem smaller, if they know the afterbeat chords and their relationships, they're kind of looking a little bit ahead to those neighbor chords. So you can rest and 2 and 3 and rest and 2 and 3 and rest and dominant 7. Here he goes to C major, and 1 and 2 and 3. Now he goes back to A minor, 2 and 3, rest and 2 and 3, rest and dominant 6, split out, and thins out to this chord, which is Okay, now this is all without pedal for now, because the first thing to do is not to use the pedal, because the pedal is can sort of start drowning things for the student. And best that the clarity come without the pedal. The pedal is the final touch, in my opinion, is the dessert in the learning process. So now, the student will now play the bass and the afterbeat chords. Now he sort of knows that this is the neighbor motion between the chords without the fundamental bass. Minor, 7 of C, split in half, resolve. Okay, so then you can put it together, fundamental bass, afterbeat chords. Now, the fundamental bass is what you lean on because it is the root of the chord. The afterbeat chords you want to lighten up, especially the third beat. It's very easy for a student to smack a third beat. We don't want to do that. So 1 and 2 and lighter and lean. 1 and 2 and lighter. Lean. 1 and 2 and lighter. And resolve. 1 and 2 and even lighter if you can. It's hard to do that. 1 and 2 and 2. 4 chord and 2 and lighter. Dominant and C major and resolve. That's the first page, and this first page is the key to the whole piece, basically. Now, with both hands, C and 1 and 2, and I'm using pedal here. 1 and 2, and under the light and under 2 and 1 and 2. 1 and 2 and 3. Now the piece continues this way because that's the main idea of the piece, and there are sort of interluding sections. The next time he states this theme is very soft. I tend to use the soft pedal here. So I go, but then get off the soft pedal. Now changes, this is the deviation where he's going higher. Student needs to know that, the deviation. Back to C major. So it got more intense because it went higher. And that's what Bach did in the Invention when I discussed that. You can take the same motif, the same basic idea, and go higher and create intensity. Now this is the second distinct section. This is where he goes back to A minor and has something different, more improvised. This improvised section, it starts in the melodic minor because A melodic minor would give us the F sharp and the G sharp. So now he's letting loose more because he's going into mezzo forte range, whereas first page was piano, little swell, and then double P. Now he's letting go into. Now if you do it slowly, you want to keep to the slow practice. Now each time he gets less, he takes a piece of that motif, the last part of it, less. Now arpeggio, improvisation. Let's go. Goes back to. Please. Let it go. Okay, and he comes back to what we've already rehearsed, which is the opening theme. C major. Now he's modulating suddenly to the key of. This is going to be the dominant of the parallel major. If A minor is the key, the parallel major is A major. This whole section is the peak of the piece because it's the longest phrasing of notes under one phrase mark, most notes, and it's forte. It's the highest part of the piece, literally, in terms of hitting the highest note. Well, maybe not, because the highest note was just now what I did on the arpeggio, but it's the longer stream of notes in the major that creates the climax. Now, the student might want to look at the bass here, which is dominant note, 2 and 3, and tonic. This is why this piece is easy to teach. So redundant harmony, 2 and 3 and 1 and off and 3. Look how easy this is. And 2 and 3 and 2 and 3 and off and 3 and. That's the whole climax, and that's the left hand. Now if you fill it in with the afterbeats, you have dominant 7th, rest and 2 and 3 and rest and major and dominant 1, resolve, major, dominant, resolve, resolve, major, dominant 1, rest. Now that's all that is. And on the top you have this big. I mean, that's the climax right there. Now that whole page repeats. And now we're simply back to the beginning. And I always like to say to the student, think of it as a memory of the beginning, because if you have to play the same scene 3, 4, 5 times, it should be a little different each time, or it becomes sort of like a broken record. So you want to say, this one's in the distance. A memory of the theme, perhaps. Back to major C major relative. Decoration. Little coda. Let's do that better. You can see why this is probably the best waltz to teach a student at the very beginning.